The world of gymnastics is often seen as graceful, powerful, and awe-inspiring, but behind the dazzling performances lies a dangerous truth. One small mistake can turn deadly. Over the years, gymnastics has seen tragedies that shook not only the sporting community but the world at large, reminding us just how unforgiving this sport can be. From fatal training accidents to heartbreaking competition falls, these are 5 of the most terrifying gymnastic deaths ever recorded.
The Industrial Magistrates Court has fined Gymnastics Townsville $70,000 for breaching the Workplace Health and Safety Act. Gymnastics Townsville was last month found guilty of breaches after the death of a 19-year-old gymnast in June last year. Michelle Maitland fell and hit her head on a section of concrete not covered by a safety mat.
June 18, 2009, Townsville, Australia. The night began like any other. 19-year-old Michelle Maitland rushed out the front door for gymnastics training, her voice echoing through the house as she called to her mother, "Are we having that steak when I get home?" She didn't wait for an answer. She never came back. It was the last time her mother would ever hear her voice. Inside the Aitkenvale gym in Townsville, the air was filled with the rhythmic sounds of practice, feet hitting mats, bodies flipping, coaches shouting encouragement. But that night, one mistake, one overlooked detail, would turn a routine training session into a nightmare. Michelle, full of determination, attempted a backward twisting layout, a move so advanced it's usually reserved for elite gymnasts. She launched herself into the air, body spinning, heart racing. For a split second, everything looked perfect. Then the rotation went too far. Instead of landing safely on the padded surface, Michelle came crashing down head first onto bare concrete. A section of the floor that should have been covered by 6 meters of protective matting had been left exposed. There was only half the required padding, and her skull met the unforgiving surface with unimaginable force. Witnesses say the sound of the impact silenced the gym. Coaches and teammates rushed to her side, but the damage was already done. Michelle was rushed to Townsville General Hospital, her condition critical. Her family gathered, clinging to hope, but by the following day, that hope was gone. Michelle was gone. A daughter, a sister, a friend, the bright, laughing girl who only wanted to relive the joy of gymnastics was taken in the most preventable way imaginable. The aftermath was devastating. Investigations revealed her coach wasn't even qualified to teach the move she was attempting. Someone had shifted the mat earlier in the day and failed to put it back. No one checked, no one corrected it, and because of that, Michelle paid with her life. Her mother later admitted the horrifying truth. Her skull was smashed to smithereens. Words no parent should ever have to say. Her death sent shockwaves through Queensland. A safety review of gymnastics clubs across the state revealed chilling findings. Only 8% of facilities had proper controls to prevent hard surface contact. Dozens of enforcement notices were handed out. Many gyms were operating with unqualified coaches, poor safety planning, and equipment that wasn't even set up correctly. Michelle's death was not an isolated freak accident. It was a tragedy waiting to happen. Townsville Gymnastics was eventually fined $70,000 for breaching safety obligations. But for Michelle's family, no fine, no punishment, no report could ever balance the scales. Her mother, Anne, described it as bitter justice. The safety overhaul came too late for her daughter. "I wasn't expecting her not to come home," she said quietly, still struggling to understand how such negligence could cost so much. On what would have been Michelle's 22nd birthday, her family stood outside the same gym, lighting candles in the dark. Each flame a reminder of a young life cut short. Each flicker a warning to parents, athletes, and coaches everywhere. Anne's message was sharp, almost pleading. Don't take the manager's word for it. Check for yourself. Michelle had left gymnastics years earlier, retiring after countless injuries as a child. But she came back, not as an elite competitor, just as a young woman rediscovering a passion. She wasn't training for medals. She wasn't aiming for fame. She just wanted to enjoy the sport she loved. Instead, she became a symbol of everything that can go wrong when safety is ignored. Her story lingers, a chilling reminder that behind the flips and smiles, gymnastics can turn deadly in an instant. And all it takes is one missing mat.
The 18-year-old man who fell from a light pole during the Eagle celebration has died. Tyler Sabapathy had been on life support since Sunday when he fell at 15th and Market Streets in Center City.
January 26, 2025, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The streets of Center City pulsed with chaos and joy as thousands of Eagles fans flooded the night, their voices echoing against glass towers, fireworks bursting like cannons in the winter sky, green smoke, chants of "Fly, Eagles, fly," and wall-to-wall people turned downtown into a sea of frenzy. Among the revelers was 18-year-old Tyler Sabapathy, a freshman at Temple University. Not just another face in the crowd, Tyler was a decorated gymnast, a prodigy who had collected more than 120 medals in competition. His friends described him as fearless, relentless, and full of promise. That night, caught in the electric storm of victory, he looked like every bit the young champion he was. At the corner of 15th and Market, adrenaline surged. Tyler spotted the light pole, slick with condensation, already swarmed by fans daring each other to climb. To most, it was dangerous. To Tyler, it was instinct. Years of training, balance, and aerial control made him believe he could handle it. Cheers erupted as he scaled higher, his gymnast's body pulling against the steel, legs hooking, arms steady. For a moment, the pole became his apparatus, the crowd his audience, but celebration has a cruel way of turning. A slip so fast, so merciless, sent him crashing down. The roar of the crowd twisted into screams as Tyler's body twisted midair, then struck the unforgiving concrete below. He landed hard on his back, the whiplash of his skull against pavement echoing louder than any firework. People rushed toward him in shock, the night's joy collapsing into horror. Paramedics carved through the chaos, sirens splitting the celebration as they raced him to Jefferson Hospital. Doctors worked frantically. For 2 days, his family and teammates held on, praying over every machine that kept him alive. But the trauma was too severe. His brain injuries left no room for recovery. On January 28th, Tyler Sabapathy slipped away, just 18 years old. Temple University's president tried to put the unthinkable into words. The loss of a promising 18-year-old man like Tyler is both tragic and traumatic. There are no words that can make sense of it. Tyler wasn't just thriving academically in exercise and sports science. He was admired for his self-discipline, for the way he pushed beyond limits in everything he did. His professors saw a future leader. His teammates remembered his grit, his laughter, his unmatched work ethic. His family remembered the boy who had left Toronto full of dreams, only to never return. Video from that night still lingers online. Revelers climbing poles, fireworks cutting across the skyline, strangers cheering as the city drowned in celebration. But for those who knew Tyler, the footage is unbearable. Because that night, the victory Philadelphia celebrated became the night one young gymnast fell for the last time. A boy who once seemed untouchable in the air, grounded forever by one slip.
Over on the box. Mario Magneti scores 14.333 for parallel bars. The next performer.
He was only 23, but already a national hero. Anton Malage had stood on the Olympic podium in Amsterdam just 2 years earlier, bronze medal around his neck, his future wide open, his name whispered as one of the rising greats. And yet, on a rain-soaked day in the summer of 1930, all of that promise ended, not with the roar of a crowd, but with silence. What should have been another step toward immortality became a tragedy that haunts gymnastics to this day. The World Championships in Luxembourg had been cursed from the beginning. The skies opened up, rain pounding the city until organizers were forced to abandon the stadium. The solution was hasty, careless, move the competition into a cramped school gym, set up the apparatus on thin, unfit mats, and hope no one noticed. No time for proper safeguards. No thought for what might happen if something went wrong. But the athletes had trained too long, dreamed too hard, and so the event pressed forward. Anton, known to friends as Tone, took his place on the rings. His movements were clean, precise, his body flowing with the kind of strength only years of sacrifice could forge. Then came the dismount, the final note in his routine. But when his body hit the ground, there was no safe cushion to break the fall. The mat, barely more than a layer of padding, gave way instantly. He collapsed, his body crumpling under the impact. There were no flashing cameras, no medical teams charging in, just stunned silence, the sound of hurried footsteps, panicked whispers filling the gym. He was rushed to a local hospital, but the truth was obvious from the start. His spine had shattered, the kind of injury no young athlete can survive. He held on through the night. By the morning of July 15, 1930, Anton Malage was gone, and yet the competition continued. His teammates, reeling from shock, chose to compete anyway. Josip Primožić went on to win the all-around. the Yugoslav team taking third place. But what is victory when one of your brothers never makes it back to stand beside you? The cheers rang hollow, medals heavy with grief. This wasn't fate. It wasn't bad luck. Fellow gymnast Edvard Antosevic, who had once shared the Olympic podium with Anton, later pointed to the truth: negligence, the rushed relocation, the unfit equipment, the mats that were barely mats at all. Even Leon Stukelj, another Yugoslav legend, slipped from the high bar that day and was forced to withdraw. The warnings were there, but Anton paid the final price. When his body returned to Ljubljana 3 days later, the entire city seemed to stop breathing. Tabor Hall became a place of mourning as more than 10,000 people came to say their final goodbye. His casket passed slowly through Skopje Loka and into Bohinjska Bistrica, where the boy who once dreamed beneath the mountain skies was finally laid to rest. His grave, marked with a bronze bust, stands as a reminder: even legends can fall. But his story did not end there. A memorial competition was founded in his honor in 1970. Streets in Ljubljana and Bohinjska Bistrica bear his name. His legacy lives on in the movement he once embodied, in the chants of athletes who know that the sport he died for must always carry the weight of his sacrifice. Anton Malage did not die in war. He did not die in battle. He died doing what he loved, betrayed not by his body, but by the failure of those who should have protected him. And perhaps that is the most haunting truth of all. He was only 18, but for Nguyen Minh Triet, one of Vietnam's brightest gymnastics prodigies, all of that promise ended in a split second. What should have been just another day at training became the last chapter of a life that had only just begun. It happened during a backflip. He launched himself into the air, body twisting with familiar grace, but the landing was wrong. Terribly wrong. His head struck first. His arms and legs stopped responding instantly. Paralysis. He was rushed to Hanoi's E-hospital, then to Bach Mai for emergency surgeries. Machines began doing what his body no longer could, breathing for him, keeping his heart steady. And yet lying there, broken and immobile, he whispered words that cut through every doctor and coach who heard them. "I really appreciate life. I want to keep living." His coach, Major Hao Trung Lin, could barely hold back tears, repeating them. "It made me so emotional. He still had the will to fight," he said. But willpower cannot stitch shattered bones back together. It cannot unbreak a neck. Despite round-the-clock care, Triet's condition slipped further. In April, he was transferred to Thanh Nan Hospital. By then, everyone knew hope was a fragile thing, and yet they clung to it. On May 9th, 2024, that hope finally collapsed into silence. Nguyen Minh Triet was gone. To those who knew him, he had been far more than an athlete. He was the heart of his family, the third of 4 siblings, yet the one holding everything together. His father, retired and piecing together work as a night guard. His mother, sick with cancer. His older brother, too frail to hold a job. And his baby sister, only 5 years old, too young to understand the weight her brother carried. Every month, Triet handed over his entire salary from training, not to buy himself anything, but to keep them afloat. It was a burden no teenager should bear, but he carried it without complaint. And still, he was relentless in the gym. He started gymnastics at 7, joined Vietnam's national youth team by 12, and by 15 he was sweeping national titles year after year. In 2022, he won bronze for the Army team at the 9th National Sports Festival. He was weeks away from finishing high school. He wanted more. Senior competitions, bigger stages, maybe even the Olympics. All of that lay just ahead, until the fall. November 10th, 2023, the National Sports Training Center in Hanoi. Triet attempted 2 backflips into a foam pit, something designed to be safe, but instead of rebounding, his neck snapped under the weight of his landing. A simple miscalculation, and everything changed. In gymnastics, the margin for error is thinner than a blade. In the months that followed, Vietnam's sports community rallied. Donations came in. The Vietnam Gymnastics Federation made sure Triet had the best care possible. Doctors did all they could. His coach admitted that deep down, they knew what the outcome would be. "We knew the chances were slim, but it doesn't hurt any less." He always fought harder in competition than in practice. That spirit, it never left him. When he was laid to rest, more than 200 people gathered. Nguyen Minh Triet's story isn't just about gymnastics, it's about sacrifice. It was August 15th, 2001, in Deva, Romania, the heart of the country's gymnastics empire. The same gym that had produced legends. Inside, 12-year-old Alexandra Huci trained quietly. Her tiny frame, just 55 pounds, moving through familiar drills. She was supposed to be taking it easy, nursing a sore wrist that kept her from full routines. But everyone knew Alexandra was different. She had that spark, that rare presence coaches whispered about when no one else was listening. Romania had seen many prodigies before her, but there was something about this girl. That morning looked like any other. No falls, no stumbles, no warning signs. Alexandra climbed from the pit, approached her coach, Liliana Cosma, and spoke so softly she had to lean in to hear. "I need to go to the restroom," she said. Minutes later, she came back pale, trembling. "I can't continue," she whispered. She had just thrown up. Her coach didn't hesitate. Straight to the school doctor. Alexandra was still conscious then. At least that's what the physician believed. But the nurse who rode in the ambulance would later insist otherwise. "She was already in a coma when we arrived," she said, still shaken. "We asked if she had fallen. They said no. This wasn't a crash. This wasn't an accident on the beam or vault. It was something darker, something happening inside her own body. From the pediatric hospital in Deva to the county ICU, and finally, airlifted to Timisoara's neurosurgery unit, Alexandra was passed from one desperate team of doctors to another. For 5 days, machines kept her breathing as Romania held its breath too. News bulletins showed her face, delicate, serious, almost too young for the weight she carried. Flowers and religious icons piled up at the hospital doors. Strangers prayed for a child they had never met. The truth was cruel. It wasn't gymnastics. It wasn't overwork or injury. Alexandra had been carrying a hidden time bomb from birth, a congenital malformation of blood vessels deep in her brain. That morning, it burst. A sudden hemorrhage flooded her brain with blood, sending her into a third-degree coma. No fall, no warning, just a quiet collapse into the arms of fate. Back home in a poor village near Falticeni, her parents didn't even know yet. They had no phone. By the time the news reached them, their daughter was already clinging to life by wires and machines. Alexandra had begun gymnastics at 6 years old, chasing the shadow of her idols who had won gold in Sydney the year before. She had already claimed a national title for her age group. When reporters asked what she wanted most, her answer was steady, almost solemn. "The Olympics. I have no time for friends, but I like the gym." She was 12, and speaking like someone who had already traded childhood for destiny. But destiny betrayed her. On August 20th, after 5 silent days, Alexandra was gone. There was no dramatic fall, no crash echoing across the gym, only a whisper to her coach, a pale face, and the quiet unraveling of a dream the world never got to see. To this day, her name is spoken softly in Romanian gymnastics circles, a reminder of how fragile even the brightest sparks can be.